Hello and welcome to Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'm your host, Karen Seltz, and I wanted to talk about how to really fall in love with your life. And I was in a hot yoga class, and one of my favorite instructors, Cintra Brown, said this. And at the end of class, I'm like, could you say that again? I want to write this down. Resistance drains energy. Acceptance saves energy, and cheerfulness sustains energy. Resistance drains energy, acceptance saves energy, and cheerfulness sustains energy. And I love that. If you think about life, how many situations have you resisted? And they are always, it's like, the old computers, if they had too many programs running at once, the memory would slow down and, they would overheat or they would malfunction. Our brains are very similar to those old computers. They need a little update in the software. And when we have too many things out there, too many programs open, too many situations that we haven't quite dealt with yet, including things that we are resisting. So if we're resisting things, we're pushing them down below our level of consciousness, but our unconscious mind still gets to deal with them. And it is constantly seeking a solution to resolve these issues. So whether you are thinking about them consciously or not, they are still running and they're sucking your energy. So I did this experiment one time. I was coaching a leadership program, and we wanted something to happen for one of the other women. And I said, okay, we're all on a team, and I was the coach, and there were 6 students. And I said, okay, what's left unfinished right now that you could wrap up the details? You could finish it in 5 minutes. So we all did something. I went and picked up my bathroom because it got messy through the week. Everybody did one thing, 5 minutes. And she was looking for a situation to resolve itself. Somebody wasn't getting back to her about picking up her son that day, and she was going to be in this leadership course all day. And it was raining. She didn't want him to walk home in the rain. So within that 5 minute time frame, as soon as we all finished something, we all completed a task, the person got back to her and said, yeah, I'd be happy to take your son home. So it's those little things. So it's not only in our brains, but it's telling the universe energetically, I'm ready. This is resolved. I'm ready for the next thing. And say it's something that you want to create. Let's say you're a business owner and you want more clients. Well, if you have all these programs running in the background, there's no space for you to do a good job with more clients. So the universe ain't gonna bring it to you. It's just not gonna happen. So, what in your life, this is a take action kind of show tonight. So, what could you do in your life right now? What's unfinished? What have you been putting off that you could complete right now? Like if you're watching the replay of this, just pause and go finish something. Maybe it takes 5 minutes. But think about the bandwidth that frees up here. I love that. I spent many, many years in 12 step, and we had this saying, what we resist persists. And it's so true. A lot of times, now you hear about all this positive psychology, like no bad vibes, high vibes only. I've been on some dating sites over the years, and I see this a lot. No drama allowed. And for me, that person is saying what they don't want. They're resisting. And they're also, anytime we use any negative words, the universe and our subconscious mind does not hear them. So it's saying, drama, bring me some drama, bring me some bad vibes. We don't realize we're doing it unless we've studied this stuff. So, what do you want? In order to get to what you want, you get to clear out the stuff that is unpleasant a lot of times, which is the things that we're resisting. And one thing that really helps me when it comes to this resistance piece, especially if I'm resisting certain characteristics or certain people because they have certain characteristics that I don't like or that trigger me or whatever, The thing is, when I'm resisting these things, there is 100% of the time something in me that I'm not willing to look at. Something that I think, ugh, I don't like that quality. So I am going to pretend I don't have it. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to resist it. And the moment I do that, it's going to show up out here. And I'm going to project that onto somebody, the first person that comes along, most likely. And it could be an acquaintance, it could be a business associate. Your partner takes the brunt of this stuff because partners are here to play roles for each other. They are mirror back, like, okay, here's who you are, or here's who you don't want to be. And, there's this dance that goes on there. So the quicker you can realize, okay, there is nothing outside of me, there's nothing out there. Everything that I'm seeing is a reflection of me, either how I am showing up, what's in my unconscious mind, or what I'm resisting because, in my case, I don't think it's lovable. I think a person that shows up that way is not lovable and they're going to end up alone or whatever it is. Like, that's my story. We all have our own stories around things. And like growing up, for example, the word selfish was a big trigger for me. If my mom called me selfish, it was the biggest stab, like, oh, like I'm not lovable. People that are selfish are not lovable to my mom. And she was the only one who mattered to me at that time. So look for those words, like the characteristics that really trigger you, that get your blood boiling. You're like, oh, I'm not like that person. And think about a time when you were like that and not exactly like the person. So I'm going to teach you a way to do this in a way that's easier, a way you can detach from it. And it is this. So if you think about somebody that triggers you, it could be a politician, it could be your best friend, it could be somebody you just don't like that you have to deal with or whatever. It could be your partner. And what are the characteristics that a person who, say you're judging them, okay, this person is whatever, something you think you would never ever be. What are the characteristics that that person has? So a lot of times it's selfish or egotistical, know-it-all. I don't know. It could be absolutely anything. Taker. If you think about, you write down all those characteristics and then go back through them and say, okay, when in my life have I ever been selfish? And I'm sure you can think of a time or two if you're not in total denial. I can always think of at least, well, many for each one. When is a time that I was egotistical or self-centered, whatever the qualities are? Because yes, most of you are not going to murder anybody, and you might have judgment about someone who would. But if you look at that judgment and you look at that person, like what kind of person, as far as ways of being, characteristics, would murder someone? Someone psychotic. Okay, when have you ever been psychotic? Like, have you ever thought about murdering someone? Well, even in the Bible, it says, that most of us have thought about it. Not that we would do it, but we've thought about it. So when you can get to that level of self-awareness and self-acceptance, where you realize that no characteristic, not a single one, is unlovable. And we are all holistic beings, which means we have every single characteristic within us. And I love this analogy. When we're growing up and we're making our way through the world, we're trying to figure out, okay, how can I be loved? How can I be accepted? How can I fit in? How can I avoid punishment if that was the kind of household you grew up in? And if someone says to you, good girls don't talk negatively, good girls don't swear, good girls don't have sex before they're married, whatever it is, we take all these parts of us, like, well, maybe I wanted to swear, or maybe, I wanted to really express myself or use my voice. And it could be something like good girls aren't loud, or good boys don't cry, or big, whatever it is, big boys don't cry. What characteristics did you lock away in a closet because somebody told you they were not acceptable? And for me, not acceptable means they're not lovable. And if I show up this way, nobody will love me. So every time that happens, we take these qualities out, like selfishness, and we like look down at our chest, we pull out a hunk and we toss it aside. Uh, what did I say? Selfishness, that's one. Foul mouth, crying, expressing emotions, being loud, using my voice, um, judging, whatever it is. We take all these pieces out and we wonder why we feel like we need something. We feel like we're lacking. We want someone else to complete us, whether it's a job, a mate, a best friend, a certain amount of money, a certain body, whatever it is. Most of us are looking outside of ourselves to put all those pieces back in. And we can never do it until we are willing to look at those characteristics that we thought were unlovable and bring them back in. Like, come on in, selfishness. I got you. I love you. It's okay to be selfish. Because if you look at every one of those characteristics, like selfishness, if you flip it over, the other side of that coin is generosity, or whatever it is to you. For me, it's generosity. So unless I'm willing to embrace my selfish side, I can never be fully generous. And that one's an easy one to wrap your head around, because think about it. If you are constantly giving, 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 giving without any discernment of where you are sending your time and resources, or spending your time and resources, when something really matters to you, like, gosh, I would really love to give to that cause, oftentimes there's nothing left. So you get to be discerning. You get to be selfish with how you spend your time, how you allocate your resources, who you spend time with. Because we're talking about energy, there are certain people that will suck energy from you. So start paying attention to that. And when they ask you, instead of resisting, just say, no, thank you. Thanks for thinking of me. When people ask you to do things that you don't want to do, you say, the beginning step to that is, let me think about it. And it's not, let me check my calendar, because if it were, if you do this thing, I'm going to give you $100 million, you would definitely make time. So that's never an excuse. And that's not an integrity. So you think about, if you are a people pleaser and you're used to saying yes to things, you get to have some intermediate steps in between. So that would be, let me think about it and get back to you. And then you check in with your body. Does it feel like a hell yes, or is it a or is it a hell no? And if it's an or a hell no, it's a no. It's a thanks for thinking of me. I appreciate it. And it's a no for me right now. Or it's not in alignment for me right now. And you don't need a story. You don't need to make anything up. You just say, no, thank you. No, thank you. That's it. Everything else is wanting people to like you or to manipulate them into something. So don't do it. Just practice. Practice. It's so hard in the beginning. It sounds really simple, but when you first start, it's going to be so uncomfortable. So maybe practice with a friend. Like, oh, can I practice saying no to you? Because I used to get mad at people for asking me to do things with them, like they were reading my mind, and like I had to say yes, but I felt like I had to say yes. So if you're like that, like, why do people keep asking me things? Well, because you keep saying yes, and the universe will keep bringing you opportunities to practice your next skill. So until you start saying no to enough things, you're going to keep getting a lot of things that are not in alignment for you. So you get to practice saying no. So what we resist persists. If you resist saying no, you're going to get lots of opportunities to do so. Then comes acceptance. All right, so you've come to accept, yes, I have every single characteristic within me. Yep, I'm selfish, and I'm lovable, even when I'm selfish. What? Newsflash. I love that so much. So when you start to accept all the parts of you, it's like you're bringing them back home and you're restoring your wholeness. And I love that so much. It is a process. It takes some time. It takes some awareness. So you get to tell your subconscious mind, okay, I want you to watch for when I'm projecting. And projection often looks like judgment or anger, frustration that's directed at other people. So that's projection. Sometimes we turn it on ourselves, like, I'm so stupid. Why did I say that? Why did I do that? So you want to watch for both of those things. And you want to tell your subconscious mind, okay, watch for when I am unkind to myself or others. There's this concept that keeps coming up in my mind and I keep forgetting to practice it. So I'm reminding myself here. And it's the concept of verbal harmlessness. And I don't know, I believe it's Buddhist, but either in your thoughts or in what you say, what you speak, you don't do any harm to anybody. And that reminds me, I've taught my kids this. They don't do it, they're teenage girls. But I said, never say anything about someone that you wouldn't say to them. Never say anything about someone, like behind their backs, that you wouldn't say to them, because it will get back to them. And even if it doesn't in words, we all feel the energy of that. Like we know when someone's talking about us in a negative way, we feel it. Something feels off. We're like, I don't know, I don't trust that person anymore. And I told my daughters this, if you're talking about other people behind their backs, the person you're talking to won't trust you because they're expecting you to do the exact same thing to them the moment they leave. It's true too. Think about it. We have all been around people that talk negatively about others. And maybe it's been us at one time or another. I know I've certainly done it. It doesn't feel good to me anymore. Immediately, if I start doing it now, I'm like, oh, pause. This doesn't feel good. I get to reflect. I get to be grateful for the things that they do provide in life, like to other people and to me and for who they are, or for the fun experiences we've had, or for the growth, for the opportunity to practice verbal harmlessness. So don't beat yourself up because any new habit takes a while, 21 to 28 days, if you're practicing consistently, to nail it or to at least get better at it. So here's what I invite you to do instead. The moment you catch yourself in any of these verbally harmful, I guess would be the opposite, whether you're judging or being mean or thinking mean thoughts or thinking judgmental thoughts towards someone else or yourself, you get to celebrate that you caught it. That's the first step. It's awareness, like, oh my gosh, I caught it, because you never caught it before. You didn't. You were just felt crappy. So when you feel crappy, that's another way to catch it. Like, oh, okay, what was I thinking? What was I thinking that is making me feel crappy? Because it comes from a thought. So when you go back, you can kind of retrace your steps like, oh, okay, I see. I was thinking I was better than that person, or I was thinking that person was better than me, or whatever it is. So play with it, start celebrating it, and then make a choice. Like, what would I rather think about instead? Either about that person or about life. It could be life isms. That's not a thing, but like some people say, like, life isn't fair. And one of mine is, we live in a kind and loving universe. And what you're looking for, you are going to experience. You will always, always, always find evidence for what you choose to believe. What are you choosing to believe? What are you looking for evidence for? I was having a conversation with one of my friends who's absolutely gorgeous and brilliant. And we were together recently. And she said, the only reason people came up to us is because you were there and they wanted to talk to you. Well, she has a story that stems from high school cheerleading, that the blonde cheerleaders got more attention. Guys wanted to be with them more than her because she has brown hair. I'm like, that's crazy. Right? Like, that's an insane thing. Everybody has their own taste. Everybody. Like, some guys like blonde, some guys like redheads, some guys like different ethnicities. What it has nothing to do with reality. It doesn't. So if she were looking to see like what guys were coming up to talk because of the talk that she gave, well, it doesn't even matter what she looks like. She's beautiful, but who cares, right? We will always find evidence for what we're looking for. That was my point in that long and drawn out story. Sometimes I never know where they're going. Sometimes they go nowhere. So resistance drains energy. Acceptance saves energy. So when you're not fighting, think how much energy it takes to fight physically. Well, your mind is doing that all day long until you rein it in, rein it in, rein it in. So then cheerfulness sustains energy. Do you ever notice somebody who has a positive attitude, they can inject energy into a room? I mean, it's unbelievable. You've all felt it. And you've also felt the people that like walk into a room and they're like suck all the energy out and the room gets like contracted and small and you're like, ew, what just happened? So I have a story about this that happened recently. I had a beautiful meditation one morning last week, and I was really focusing on my heart space, on opening my heart and loving unconditionally in a way that other people could feel it. They could just feel God's love, the universe's love, just by my presence. So that was my intention. And I've been really working on setting an intention before doing anything, especially meditating. So I went to Costco for gas, and they hire people that have degrees in whatever it is. I don't know what it is, fuel, minerals. And the guy there, he came next to me. He's working at Costco in the gas, and he's like, oh my gosh, I can feel love coming off of you. I just feel loved in your presence. I'm like, oh my gosh, like a complete stranger, like a complete stranger felt loved by me. I didn't say a thing. I don't even know if I had made eye contact with him yet. So it really makes a difference when we concentrate on who we choose to be. Who do we want to be? What do we want the energy around us to be like? And it's like all these invisible things. Sometimes I play with it. I think about like, you know, the energy expanding and people, that are normally grumpy are like, huh, and they start smiling and they have a spring in their step, or maybe they start whistling, or maybe they buy coffee for the person behind them. I don't know, but we are responsible for the energy we bring. And if we want to spread love and joy, we get to work on acceptance, which starts with noticing what we're resisting and bringing everything back in, because nothing's unacceptable. Not one characteristic is unacceptable. If it were, we would all be crap, because we all have every single characteristic within us. And this is super fun to play with. So my invitations for you are, what are 4 trigger words or characteristics that trigger you, that you would just die if you were those? You'd be like, oh, I'll never be like that. Like, one of mine is like, it really annoys me when people monologue, when they don't ask me a single question about myself. They just talk about themselves all the time. And I don't know what characteristic that is exactly, but guess what I do on this show? I monologue, right? Like, so, I mean, that's an easy one. I don't think I do it in life with other people. I'm genuinely curious about other people, and I love hearing about people's experiences and who they are. And I just love it. It gives me energy. Um, and I want to say one more thing about yoga. I know it's a non sequitur, but we're going to do it anyway. So I've been doing a lot of hot yoga lately, and I've been playing with setting an intention. And I used to go in about 15 minutes before class would start, and I would stretch, and sometimes I'd talk to somebody if I knew them. But lately I've been stretching, and then I stop and I get really silent and I close my eyes and I set an intention for the entire class, to tune into group energy, to universal source energy, and to focus and to feed one another this loving, sustaining high energy and this focus. And it has made such a huge difference in like the entire class. Like I can feel people's hearts opening, and I can feel joy, and I can feel focus and love. And yeah, maybe I'm making it up. I don't care. It's making my quality of life better. It's making me happy. And I believe it is rubbing off on the people around me. So who do you choose to be? What type of energy do you choose to bring to every situation? How do you want people to respond to you? How do you want people to feel when they're with you? When they leave your presence, what do you want them to remember? about what they experienced. And I think it's really beautiful because we have a tendency as human beings to forget the truth of who we are and to identify with, the 3D, with the illusion, with whatever's happening. And my intention is to ground people in the truth, for them to see their beauty, their strength, their passion, their possibilities when they look into my eyes. Now that's pretty fun, huh? Who wouldn't want to be around that? I love it. So play and let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments what you're playing with. What's your intention every day before you leave the house or before you leave your bedroom and go interact with your children, before you talk to your partner, whoever's in your life? What is your intention? Who do you choose to be? And work on it and leave me a comment. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much for watching Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'm Karen Seltz. See you next time.